Happy International Women's Day to all the women of the world, all the women of Toronto. This is your friend Knia Singh, and I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Justin Rochester.
Yes, good afternoon, Toronto.
We have a great special for you today. We are focusing on women. We are not going to do our regular dance of all the controversial subjects we like to tackle because we think that it's very important that this day be observed, and we use our resource and our platform to share stories of fabulous, incredible women. So what I'm going to be asking you to do this weekend is call us at 416-872-1010 or text us at 71010 and mention an important woman in your life or an important women figure that you want us to mention on air. And at the end of the show, we're going to open the lines up so you can call and tell us some great uplifting stories about the strength of the women in your lives.
I bet a lot of them are mothers. I guarantee you.
I would say so.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Shout out to my mom, because Mom, you're the best, and Grandma, and all the women in my family, because without you, there would be no me.
Well, also shout out to my mom then. I mean, I guess I'm on the spot now. Love you, Ma.
All right, and all the mothers to be and all the mothers that have been, so shout outs to you. We have a very special guest, and this woman, this young lady, is a fixture in the communal scene when it comes to arts, culture, and activism. Her name is Coco Lorraine, and Miss Coco Lorraine, welcome to News Talk 1010.
Well, thank you. It's so good to be here.
Now, you have a very interesting story. You've grown up in Toronto, but I know you have Nova Scotian heritage. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Right? How many generations do you go back?
Well, now that I have 2 grandchildren, we've been here for 9 generations.
9 generations?
Yeah.
Okay, that's amazing. And your story, there's a lot of successes, but there's also a lot of adversity that you've gone through.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to just start sharing that with our audience. And I'm going to ask you to, once we get a chance, is to start going through your journey as a woman and any things you've noticed, the difficulties, the challenges, the successes, the benefits of being a woman. So let's start with your background.
Sure.
Just share with the audience.
Yeah, well, I grew up in Toronto. My beautiful, beautiful mother, shout out to my mom, Miss Teresa. She raised me. And my dad is from St. Kitts in the Caribbean. And he went back home to go to school, finish becoming a lawyer in Jamaica, and then went to St. Kitts and practiced law. And so I didn't get a chance to grow up with him very much. So it was difficult being raised by a single mom way back then. I grew up in Toronto and experienced quite a bit of racism in school. I was one of the only black girls going to school. I had some other challenges like a learning disability that no one knew about. And I was also experiencing some trauma that no one knew about, particularly sexual trauma by some family members from the age of 4 to the age of 14.
Okay, so I want to stop you there because that is one of the biggest, I think, unspoken of experiences of women that women go through, and they hold it in, and they are unable to share, or circumstances don't allow them to share.
Yep.
So what was it like for you going through that? And I'm not sure when it ever was disclosed or if it was, but what was your experience, and what can you say to listeners of people who are young, may have gone through that, or parents who have children who may have been going through this?
Yeah, well, it's definitely an extremely painful experience, and it clouds every other part of your life. And what I try to focus on in my work is the poison that that kind of pain leaves behind. If you think about abuse as a snake, there's someone who left a snake in the garden, and then the snake bites you. You can get mad at the person who left the snake. You can get mad at the abuser. You can get mad at the fact that it happened. But there's a poison, and that looked like really low self-esteem and a lot of shame. And it's one of the only tragedies and atrocities where the victim feels the most shame. If I get hit by a car, I wouldn't be ashamed of that. If I had cancer, I wouldn't be ashamed of that. Not that I'm trying to compare car accidents or cancer with sexual trauma, but it is a painful thing that people experience. And yet there is so much shame, and that's why it's so hidden and it's kept secret, because it's a violation of the most intimate parts of a person. And so the stats are pretty awful. And for me, it was normal because it happened quite frequently, all the way from the age of 4 to 14. And I didn't know in my young mind how to process it. So it starts to affect my hormones. It started to affect the way that I saw the world, feeling like a victim. also becoming a habitual liar because I was keeping the secret to protect. And there's all these different, again, other side effects that affect the mind and the body, like Stockholm syndrome or trauma bonding, along with low self-esteem and the chronic shame. And so you end up living life in the constant fight, flight, or freeze mode, where you're just ready to fight, and you're ready to, you're kind of paranoid about life.
Yes.
And there's so many directions that can take you in your teenage years. When you add hormones, regular hormones that teenagers get to that trauma, it can cause a number of problems.
So in today's day with the Me Too movement, did you find some strength in that, or did you see a lot of kindred spirits coming out of the woodwork because of all the sexual abuse that maybe women were having a hard time expressing in today in society?
Yeah, I think it provided an opportunity for less shame, and for women to feel empowered to be able to speak their truth. And my hope is that, as I continue to do my work, that we just don't speak the truth, because that's kind of step one, is to disclose without shame, but to find a way to heal, right?
What would you suggest as ways to heal for yourself, maybe for other young women listening today?
How I've healed was, well, first of all, I had to get counseling, point blank.
Yeah.
And they helped me to unpack exactly what the trauma did to me. What were the side effects? How was it affecting me biologically, emotionally, mentally, socially? How was it impacting my thought processes and that kind of thing?
Yeah.
It's very important to be able to unpack that and then begin to develop a new way of living. And so you want to start to create a new normal. You have to kind of reinvent yourself a little bit, or at least find out what your true self is, because a lot of times trauma overwhelms you.
So Coco, I'm going to ask you this. What was the pivotal point where this turned around? Because I've known you for doing a lot of great work, writing books, writing poetry, doing programs with you. What was the pivotal point that turned things around for you?
I think it was when I got pregnant with my daughter. I was 17 when I had her, Shamaya, shout out to my oldest. And I was at school. I was ready to quit high school. It felt like it was sort of the straw that broke the camel's back, until a teacher asked me to share my story with other students. In that moment, the pain that I was experiencing transformed into power, because I had found a purpose for the pain. And as I began to share my story at different high schools with my daughter in tow, something magical started to happen to me, where my mistakes became masterpieces, and I was able to help kids. And I was, whereas I should have been ashamed, because people, especially in those days, looked down on you for being a teenage mother, I was actually applauded for being brave. And that was the shift that took place for me. And then I knew it was possible to heal, and that maybe the shame around teenage pregnancy, the shame around trauma and abuse was a lie. And I just all of a sudden just was pushed into this advocacy role.
So prior to the strikes, I know you were running the Bellas program in certain schools. Can you just tell us briefly about the Bellas program?
Yeah, Bellas is an acronym. It stands for Beautiful, Educated, Loving, Liberated, Able, and Successful. And I chose those words very specifically because it's really all about identity, feeling good about yourself, loving yourself, recognizing your personal power. And I was running those programs. Sometimes it was just a one-off assembly. Sometimes it was 3 days in a row. Or a full-blown after-school program. And that was really to help girls, provide a safe place for them to be brave and to unpack their pain and transform it into power.
And now, you've embarked in a new role. You're doing stuff around human trafficking. Can you please explain what your role is and some of the signs that you've learned that you can share with our audience? Sure.
Well, because of the strike, I haven't been able to work in some of the schools. I'm really supporting teachers, so I actually ended up accepting a role with Women's Support Network of York Region. And they specialize they're dedicated to eradicating sexual violence against women. And they provide all kinds of programs, free counseling, 1-800 crisis line that's open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And they specifically hired me to become a anti-human trafficking education outreach worker.
Okay.
Are there specific signs to look for as you deal with young ladies that might be in crisis or might be involved in this lifestyle or trying to hide it or maybe forced into?
Yeah, there are a number of signs, and it's hard to say because not you see the sign doesn't necessarily mean that a young woman is involved, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But if you notice a change in behavior, if you notice they're skipping class, if you notice they're dressing differently, if they're hanging out with older guys, if the guy that they're hanging out with doesn't have a job or isn't in school but has a car, is spending money on her, if she's angrier than usual, if she's slipping away around the same time. For example, some girls that are being trafficked right now are still in school. Does she always skip second period? Is she isolating from her friends? Is she is in her relationship is taking her away from the family dynamic and that kind of thing?
So those are a lot of great things for parents to look out for their children, so we can maybe prevent it from getting too far.
Yeah, and we want to really pay attention to the girls that are the most vulnerable. So girls that are homeless are targeted, girls with really low self-esteem. Also, traffickers are looking for girls online, and they use romance as a way where you could actually become the girl's boyfriend and actually go into the home, and then the threats happen and isolation, and then they,
So, Coco, we're going to ask you to stick around. It's
Sure.
4:15. We're going to take a break. 4:15.
Oh, great.
Time for News Talk 1010 Time Saver Traffic.
Weather on the go. Everyone seems to be out for a drive.
That was great. Really good. Really good radio.
I
I'm
would-
listening to
Yeah, if you can get her on the line holding up. Oh. If you can get her on the line.
Westbound upper middle, that crash that was blocking both
Yeah, if you
lanes
can get her on the
down
line to
clear.
hold on, we're just going to finish a couple minutes with Nicole, and then
Heavy
we'll
for
go
Finch
to
down
her.
to the 4.
So,
Road
and
is
the time
closed
flew.
between Blind
Yeah.
Line and well time for fire investigation.
Did you have something else you wanted to ask?
No, I asked what I had to ask. I thought it was great.
Middlefield just south of Finch.
I
It pays
want
to open
to-
a CIBC Smart account.
Well, I want to touch on
$300
Jordan,
pay
because I know
no
that's
monthly
important
fee
too.
for up to 12
I
months.
want you to make sure
When
you
you
give
open
out
a new
your
account, conditions
information.
apply.
Is there
I'm Chris
anything
McKee.
else you
This
wanted
is
to touch
Toronto's breaking
on
news, traffic, and weather. Your next update at
before we
4:30
go
on
to
News Talk
the
10.
Just that we're offering free presentations
Eglinton West
in the
Station
York
is
region
closing for 5
about
months
this
starting
issue.
in late March for Eglinton Crosstown construction. The subway station
Ready?
remains open.
And I
Visit
want to get your
ttc.ca for
I
transit
want to get your
and the crosstown.ca for project
update on the march. I
Thank you
think
for
we
your
should have started with that.
Oh.
But
Misclassified as a contractor.
Maybe we should start with the march and then move it into, because that's relevant right now,
yeah.
and then
Can
move
we-
her into the.
Can we talk about the free presentations first, then the march?
Oh, sure.
For you. For this
What
and other
presentations?
employment law.
There's free presentations that I'm delivering in the next with
Every day in
about
It's
human
just
trafficking.
that's good to end on.
Mortgage
Oh.
rates are
So
falling.
maybe we should just talk
Important
about
to
march
know.
briefly.
If your
Okay.
mortgage
And
renews
then
in the
we'll
next
go
90
back
days,
to
how to get my information through this one and the other.
2.38%
and you wanna
5-year
speak about
fixed
Jordan.
rate at renewal.
Yeah.
No gimmicks, no fees. It's the same mortgage as your bank. If you
Yeah, I want your
qualify, you
information at
save
the end.
thousands.
Okay.
Because people remember it.
2.38% 5-year fixed
So we'll
mortgage
go
rate
into
at
update on the march,
butlermortgage.ca.
License number
into
1211
Jordan,
by ratio fixed
and
rate
then
transfers.
round
APR
off
of
with your contact
2.39%.
info for the human trafficking.
Son, in my day, we couldn't roll up the
Even when
rim
he's trying
on
to put up his
an
own women, he has to take
That was
the
one
strings
way.
that us First
One way only.
Nations people
Okay,
have
what are you trying to say?
put our women on
Things
pedestals,
are way
Hi
better
everybody
now.
on Facebook. I'm on the
respected,
radio.
and we listen to them. Yet the non-natives have held women down. The women had to fight so hard to get where they are. And I always have to say women here. So that's a very good point. Why do you gotta make it comparative?
Yeah, I can't even see the message.
You're giving too much of a comparative time. People have to say one thing to mean another. Just say what you mean and just stand by that.
When people are
Just
so
put down a
jaded,
vote.
the customers are very insecure about knowing the true value of their gems or watches. The process begins at Van Ryck.
I think you can
Come to
reply.
a company that has reputation
Oh
and
shoot!
give them exactly what their pieces are worth.
A lot of other
And
cultures.
they will feel
I'm not
sorry.
replying to that.
Van Ryck today.
That guy obviously has a very narrow mind.
0123 or visit
I'm happy he's like talking in the right way, but like I don't like when people make comparatives like that. It's
$1,000 a
like,
week for life. We can do
like
so
yes,
much
us
more
black
around
men are
here.
great
I
to
wanna
women,
watch
unlike
the
those
sun.
white guys. You
Your
don't need to say that
mic
last
text
We can do that.
line
And
isn't
rental the
working
bathroom with a
correctly.
big tub to relax in.
We can definitely do that.
You're what
Let's build a
you're.
home theater
I'll
for
chat.
family movie night.
We can do that too.
And get up at 5 a.m. to do yoga in our new Zen garden.
Or I can eat
Go
pancakes
to
and
News
just
Talk.
watch it.
News Talk.
With
10.
Cash for Life, you could win $1,000
Right.
every week for life.
That's
Cash
it.
for
There you
Life.
go.
You got it.
Yeah, I got it.
I heard all the chat, like, is that the right words?
I'll send a bill in the mail. I got it. We're good. We're good.
Where do you find a singing kangaroo?
Isn't it sexist to only talk about women?
Yeah, it is.
Talk to the tiger.
Yeah, and we're doing it.
So what?
Turtle.
What's the point?
Banana.
Men get all kinds of shine every other day. That's what I was saying to Nia. It's pretty funny how black people give a whole month.
Biggest names are
Women are half the population of the entire planet.
We have
You
a
get a day. You get 12 hours. Not even 24, 12.
Right.
From when you wake up and when you go to bed. That's it.
Well, we had a march today from 12 to 2.
Very pragmatic. See, women are very pragmatic.
Hey, everybody on
You're
Facebook. This is so
listening to
exciting. I
Knia
love the
Singh
radio.
Show
I want my
on
own
News
show.
Talk 1010.
Hint, hint.
Good afternoon on International Women's Day on the Knia Singh Show with Knia Singh, Justin Rochester, and our guest host, Nicole Coco Lorraine. We have a couple text messages. One is saying, isn't it sexist to only talk about women? Maybe I'll let you answer that, Coco.
Yeah, I think we just put too many labels on things. I think both men and women should be celebrated, and so I don't think there's anything wrong with singling out women and men. Maybe we should have a International Men's Day, but I think both are great.
I think that's every day as a man, knowing the advantages we have.
Well, women are also half the population of the entire planet, so.
And without women, we wouldn't have men.
So I guess 24 hours is okay to speak
whoever,
about their contributions.
Yeah, it is sexist to only talk about women, but we're going to do it. I think it's justifiable.
I'm not sure it's sexist, but let's move on to this.
Coco,
can you just update us? You just came from the march. Can you tell us what's going on down there?
Oh, it was beautiful. There were so many beautiful people there, lots of allies, women from different cultures marching along Bloor and all the way down Yonge Street from OAZ to Ryerson University with signs and drums and singing and little kids wearing signs. I saw the cutest little boy saying, "I am a son of a feminist." And so it was great. They really wanted to make a statement. I think they did.
That's very good.
Where do you see feminism today as to where it began?
I think there is a beautiful blend of many different cultures and women and love. We still need the voices, and anger is the right response to wrong, but there's also a lot of problem solving and solutions like the organization that I'm working with. So I think people are starting to team or have teamed together, and everybody has their niche of how they're going to serve that issue.
So, Coco, I want to touch on something that's very important as being a woman, which is motherhood.
Yes.
And I'm sad to say that I'm aware that you lost one of your children very recently.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Jordan Vera, who is a very smart, bright, upcoming artist, advocate, a brilliant young man.
Yes,
and
he was.
I think
He is.
You would owe his brilliance to a brilliant mother. I just want you to be able to share anything you want on International Women's Day about your motherhood and about your son. Please.
Yeah, thank you. Jordan is an amazing spirit and soul, and I'm learning to still mother him as he transitioned. I don't believe all is lost. And to honor him, we're releasing his music, we're publishing his books, we're keeping his legacy alive because he is, I believe in life after life. I think we need to change the language of loss. And I've been dealing with trauma for so many years. I'm grateful that I have the tools I need to be able to heal and to help people to grieve with grace. It's post-traumatic growth. That's possible. He is still with me, and I love him so dearly, and I'm grateful. But I honor his choice to transition, and will honor him for the rest of my life.
I think that's a great example of the resilience a mother and a woman has in the family unit and to their son and their children and their daughters. I commend Coco for those words, and I'm very sorry for your loss.
Thank you. My daughters have helped me, Shemaya and Shantea. They continue to share those words, and I appreciate their support and love too.
Well, thank you, Coco, for joining us. I want you to share with our audience how they can get in touch with you and how they can take advantage of the services you're offering. Please share with us.
Sure. So I think the best thing to do is follow me on Instagram, Coco Lorraine Vera. That's COCOLA, Rain, RAIN, Vera, VEIRA. That's all my social media, where it's Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And then if you'd like to hear more about Women's Support Network and the work I'm doing, I'm offering free presentations in the month of March about anti-human trafficking. And so they can reach me at cvera@womensupportnetwork.ca. They can email me there. That's C, V as in Victor, EIRA, @womensupportnetwork.ca.
Thank you so much, Coco. It's been a pleasure having you here, and hopefully we get you back on the show.
I hope so. Thank you so much.
So, Justin,
yes,
you grew up in Toronto, right?
Yeah, you have, yeah.
Yeah, so have I. I am a huge hockey fan.
Yes.
And, I love the Leafs and the Canadians. I know it's weird, but I love hockey.
I'm trying to love the Leafs. Go on.
And, when I was young, it was, interesting because when the